Tonight, a new perspective on a breaking story we told you about in Gallatin County last week after officials named a suspect in a 28-year-old cold case homicide of a teen girl in Belgrade. Danielle Houchins was found raped and murdered at a fishing access site in 1996. I sat down with Montana Free Press editor-in-chief John Adams to learn more about his coverage of the most recent developments and how the community is reacting.
I heard about it about a week before the sheriff's press conference from a source who was close to the case. I reached out to the investigator, Tom Elfmont, who Sheriff Dan Springer had brought in to be a special deputy investigator to try to uncover this 28-year-old cold case. And so I reached out to Mr. Elfmont. He was amenable to sharing details about the investigation, including details into the DNA evidence that had been uncovered, and then the genetic genealogy that led investigators back to Paul Hutchinson as the suspect.
How long had you been working on this story prior to the surprising news coming out at that press conference?
I think I first heard about it on a Wednesday, and by Friday of that week, I was in Bozeman interviewing the investigator at his home near Bridget Canyon. I worked on it throughout the rest of that weekend and all throughout the week, interviewing. I think I interviewed 15 different sources for this story, including members of Dani Houchins' family, former classmates of hers, her best friend, who now lives out of state. I interviewed her sister, who is, very adamant about reopening this case, and one of the driving forces behind this case getting another look from the Gallatin County Sheriff's Office. So it was a pretty extensive project involving a lot of interviews and hundreds of pages of documents spanning some 28 years.
What was everybody close with Danielle? What was their reaction to the suspect, and then what was their reaction with you going and reporting on this case?
Everybody was very eager to talk about it. This case has haunted a lot of folks for a long time, and there's been a lot of pain and suffering over the years. And, this question of who killed Dani has been, on the front of mind for certainly everybody who knew Dani personally, but a lot of law enforcement officers as well, including the sheriff. The sheriff started his career at the Gallatin County Sheriff's Office just a few days before Dani was killed. One of the lead investigators who picked up the case in the 2000s, she also started just a few days before Dani was killed. And so this has been one of those cases that a lot of folks were involved with, either from an investigation standpoint or they were close to Dani or her family. And everybody who knew about it, it was convinced that Dani had been murdered. And so this lingering question of who did it, are they still out there, was on the front of the mind for a lot of folks. So when news got out that that the suspect had been identified, folks are pretty eager to talk about it and share their story of how this story has impacted them over the years.
We are partnering with the Montana Free Press to bring you more in-depth news coverage of stories just like this. You can read John's article and watch our complete debrief on our homepage. Just scan that QR code on your screen or head to NBCMontana.com.